screen displays AMOLED, or nowadays you know that several properties are there, several features are there. Okay, so you just try to keep all these things in your mind, and you try to obviously buy a phone, which is obviously brand value is also one of the most important thing nowadays. And also you try to keep in mind that I want to buy a mobile phone of this part, but also you want to keep in mind that I want to spend minimum money on that. Clear to all of you what I'm trying to say? Is it okay to you what I'm trying to say? Just we have started and not yet discussed much. Just I'm talking about a real life example when we are talking about some constant or constant features came into that picture, how we can deal with this kind of thing. We are basically discussing about that part. And obviously nowadays in every real life problem, if you think about, some constant must be there. You can take any real life problem, but obviously you will find some constant definitely there to find out the maximum or minima of that function. You always keep some constant in your, and obviously nowadays it is very difficult to find out, or hardly it is difficult to find out any optimization problem where no constants are there in the real life. Okay, so let's take another example. You may think about that, suppose you want to buy a car. If you want to buy a car, obviously you are trying to find out, again as I mentioned to you in the mobile phone also, you try to find out a car whose cost is obviously in your range. But obviously in your range you also try to find out whether the space, whether the car is spacious or not, whether their features, the car features are obviously nowadays different type of features available for the car. So whether Bluetooth connectivity is there or not, these are the very simple thing. But I'm saying as per your knowledge that what type of constant you can add. You can add any type of constant. You want to buy a car, but obviously you also keep in mind that part, that I want to spend minimum money on that. But the thing, it should be the better way, and that's why we put those constant, so that you can get the extra thing. And what is your requirement, we are going to put into the constant, and ultimately we try to minimize the car cost. Is it okay to you what type of constant we are going to deal with here? Okay, so now obviously these are the examples what I've given is from real life, but here we are going to first of all define mathematically that when a multivariable optimization with equality constant is given, how it will be look like. Obviously right now we are discussing about the equality constant. Later on we will proceed to the inequality constant also. So let us suppose a function, we want to maximize or minimize a function with n variables x1, x2, xn, and subject to the constants subject to the constants constant gi x1, x2, or you may say hi, better, hi x1, x2, xn is equal to bi, where I'm considering I from 1 to n. Then basically here I'm considering some m constants, and number of variable is n. Also, you may find in some book that another function has been introduced, which is denoted by gi, which is actually nothing but h1 xn minus pi. That means this constant can be written as gi equal to 0. And this is again for I equal to 1 to n. So obviously mathematically, if you want to define, or if you want to model a equality constant multivariable optimization, you can define like that. Now the problem what we have done till now, the problem was only the function fx1 to xn is given to you. You have to find out the maximization or the minimization. That is the concept what we have done. But here something extra is provided, that this is equal to b, this constant is given to you. So now the question is that how we are going to deal with such kind of problem. And this kind of problem is going to be dealt by a method what you have in your syllabus is known as Lagrange's multipliers method. But also one thing is very important here, that here we are going to assume that it is assume that m is less than n. Why this assumption has been made? When we discuss the Lagrange multipliers method, you automatically knows that why I'm considering m is less than n. Okay, so now let's proceed to the method. The method is known as I mentioned to you, Lagrange multipliers method. Now, in the Lagrange multipliers method, first thing what we are going to do, to take those constant into the picture, we are going to define a function. Lambda 1, g1, x1, x2, xn. Okay, I'm writing again. Lambda 1, g1, x1, x2, xn. So this g1, I hope you remember that gi was 0, that was the constant, and I multiply the first constant with lambda 1. Similarly, I'm going to take another lambda 2 and I'm going to multiply with the second constant, g2, x1, x2, xn. Okay. Similarly, I'm going to take another lambda 3 for the constant g3, x1, x2, xn. And at the end, I'm going to take the final constant lambda m, gm, x1, x2, xn. So for each constant, I'm going to associate with one lambda. So now tell me, if I'm going to denote this function by the Lagrangian function, then obviously this Lagrangian function depending on n variables, obviously. But another, some m variables will also come, which are basically nothing but lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda m. Is it fine to all of you? Is it okay to all of you? Now, obviously, how many variables this Lagrangian function have? Total, how many variables are there? Total m plus n variables are there, right? N is already there, and because of that m constants, we are going to get another m variables, lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda. Now, after that, I hope you can understand that this problem is same as the problem what we have done in the previous topic, where only the function is given to you and we have to maximize or the minimize of the function. There are some theory part is there where we can prove that this function, if you just maximize or minimize, corresponding to here we are going to discuss with that part, that this function, the necessary condition will come to that way. I'm not going to detail in the proof of those things. Just I'm going to give you the necessary condition, what we have done also. Necessary condition. The necessary condition is that, as you can see, some m plus n variables are there. So first of all, we are going to take the partial derivatives with respect to xi. So what is going to come? It is going to come as partial derivative with respect to xi on f minus summation over, we can say like that, summation over I equal to 1 to m, right? Okay, make it j so that no confusion arise. J equal to 1 to m, make it lambda j, okay, del gj del xi, where I is equal to 1 to n. That means some n number of equations you are going to get from this relation. Similarly, as I mentioned to you, some lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda m are also there as a variable. So if you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda j, then what you are going to get? Del L del lambda j? Anyone? What will be del L del lambda j? Bolo. Del L del lambda J, what we are going to get? Okay, make it lambda 1. Del L del lambda.
GJ.
Yeah, exactly. So if you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda 1, you are going to get G1. If you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda 2, you are going to get G2. If you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda 3, you will get J3 and so on. So that means for each lambda J, you are going to get one GJ. Excellent. And what you are going to do, as you know, the necessary condition means we are going to solve this system of equations for J equal to 1 to M, because M constants are there. So total, how many equations do we have? We have some M plus N equations. And we have to solve these M plus N equations to get optimal value or stationary point, rather we can say. I'm going to denote it by X star and lambda star. After solving this system of equations, the solutions what we are going to get, we are going to say that this is our stationary point. Stationary point. And it can be denoted by X star comma lambda star. X star means X1 star, X2 star, Xn star, and lambda star means lambda 1 star, lambda 2 star, lambda M star. Okay to all of you? Okay. Now the question is that after getting the stationary points, what we do? Now I hope you remember I have mentioned to you that we have the thing which is known as Hessian matrix. So again, we are going to take the help of the Hessian matrix to find out the nature of the point. But here one problem is here, as we can see that this matrix is going to be a very huge matrix. Already we have n number of variables, and because of the number of constants, you are going to get a large order Hessian matrix. Now to reduce the calculation, we are going to use this Hessian matrix in a different way. So now the thing is that how we are going to deal with the Hessian matrix here. The matrix what we are going to deal with is known as bordered Hessian matrix. The matrix what we are going to deal with is known as bordered Hessian matrix. Bordered Hessian matrix. What is this bordered Hessian matrix? Bordered Hessian matrix we are going to calculate in that way. So basically, I hope you can understand that two type of variables are here. One is the variable x, which is automatically associated with the function, and one variable is lambda, which is actually associated with the number of constants. Right or wrong? Clear? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, basically, what we are going to do, we are going to break the total matrix into 4 blocks. We are going to break this total matrix into 4 blocks. And obviously, as I mentioned to you, that this is the bordered Hessian matrix, and it is actually denoted by HB. So first, we are going to consider the variables in that way: x, lambda, lambda x. I hope you remember that how we have constructed the Hessian matrix. Same way we are going to do that, but this time we are going to consider lambda first. What is the benefit of considering the lambda first? The benefit is that, as you know, that Hessian matrix always consider the second order partial derivatives. So first term, the nature of the first block, it should be del 2L del lambda 2. Clear? Because both are lambda. The second block, we are going to get this del 2L del lambda del x. In this block, del 2L del lambda del x. Again, those are the same thing, but one thing you should remember, that this matrix will going to be transposed here. I'll come to that part. And the last one is that here we are going to get del 2L. It is better to write down del xi del xj, because otherwise you will thought that all the constants are total partial derivative, second order, but it's not. It mixed derivatives are also there, x1, x2, x2, x3, depending on the number of variables. Now, if we analyze the blocks, Very important thing. Just try to understand the carefully, otherwise it is going to create problem each and every time. If I ask you in the Lagrangian function, what is the order of lambda? What is the degree of lambda? Just go back in the Lagrangian function. What is the power of lambda here? Tell me. Bolo. If you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda first, or lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda j in general, then what you are going to get? You are going to get a function. Is there any lambda involved in this first?
No, sir.
No, sir.
if,
No, sir.
So if you take another partial derivatives, then what you are going to get?
0.
0. Very good.
Zero.
Acha. Now tell me, as we are talking about not an one value, we are talking about a block. Can you tell me what will be the order of the block? How many zeros you are going to get? How many zeros means how many rows, how many columns are there in this block, in this zero block? If I ask you, very simple. Acha. How many lambdas are there? How many lambdas are there? अरे कितना लैम्डा है यहाँ पर? How many lambdas are here? बोलो. M lambdas are here. Okay. So now when you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda, then how many zeros you are going to get?
M zeros.
Not M zeros. Basically, you are going to get a block where M rows are there, M columns are there, and all our elements will be 0. That means the first block, what we are going to get, it will going to give a 0 matrix, and the order of the matrix will be M cross M. All elements will be 0. Clear?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now del to L del lambda x. What is the meaning of that? Just again go back to that previous slide. Del L del lambda already we have seen, it is Gj. Now what we are going to do now? We are going to take the partial derivative with respect to x now. So this is actually same as del Gj del x. Clear or not?
Sir, can you please repeat this part?
What I am saying, that what is the meaning of partial derivative with respect to del lambda del x? What is the meaning of that? It means del to L, because both are same, as we know that if I take x lambda or lambda x, both are the same thing here. So obviously you can deal with like that del L del lambda. After that we are going to take the partial derivative with respect to del x. Already we have taken this partial derivatives and we have seen that this is actually your Gj. So that means this is same as this.
Yes, sir.
Now tell me what will be the order here? What will be the order here? How many rows will be there? Rows will be depending on what? How many lambdas? Rows will be depending on how many lambdas? So how many lambdas are here?
M.
M.
M
And how many?
lambdas.
The number of columns will be depending on the number of x. How many
N.
N. So that is going to be M cross N. Clear to all of you? Clear to all of
Yes,
you?
sir.
Okay. Now, when you are going to consider this one, just try to understand, as it is going to be deal with x, so you cannot take M cross N here. Because why? Because number of rows will be what? Depending on x. Number of rows will be depending on x. So basically, you are going to take the transpose of that matrix. So that means you are going to get same here, del j del x. The value will be remain same, but in that case, you are going to take the transpose of that. So you can write down this basically, this will be the transpose. What you are getting here, basically you have to take the transpose and you are going to get a matrix which will be, order will be n cross n. Now the last block, del to L, del xi, del xj. What will be the order here? What will be the order here? This order will be depending on x.
X. N cross N.
N cross
Very
N.
good. N cross n. Now tell me what is the order of the border Hessian matrix? Total HB. What is the order? You know that already. No need to check that. How
M
many rows?
plus N cross M
Cross
plus
m
N.
plus n. Why? Because L, the Lagrangian function, is actually depending on m plus n variables. I have already mentioned to you. As a Lagrangian function depending on m plus n variables, so the order of this bordered Hessian matrix will be m plus n cross m plus n. Okay to all of you? Is it okay to all of you? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you just explore this, what I've written, you are going to get this matrix. What I have explained there, here I am considering each and every element. Just see, some lambda 1 to lambda m are here, and x1 to xn I have considered. Similarly, row wise, I am consider lambda 1 to lambda m first, and then x1 to xn. So in the first block, what we are going to get? We are going to get all the second order partial derivative with respect to lambda. As I mentioned to you, that the order of this will be m cross n. Clear? Similarly, when you are going to consider this block, as I mentioned to you, that you are going to get basically partial derivative with respect to gj corresponding to del xi, you can say, because I is from 1 to n, so you are going to get this matrix. And you can see the number of rows will be m and the number of columns will be n, so m cross n. And just you can see that you have taken the transpose of that here. Just see del g1 del x1 del g1 del x2. Have you noticed that? Del g1 del xn. Similarly, just take the column, transpose this row into the column. So del j2 del x1 del g2 del x2 del g2 del xn and so on. Okay to all of you? I'm just giving you the time to note it down. Shall we proceed to the sufficient condition now? Have you done it? Yes, Argo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now the sufficient condition. Now, obviously, as I mentioned to you, that we have find out our stationary point from the necessary condition. That means by solving the equations, after taking the first order partial derivatives, what we have got? We have taken the solutions and we have got our stationary point. Now, what we are going to do with the stationary points? We are going to find out the maximum or minimum that we are going to do. So that is the problem. That what is the sufficient condition? So just write down. We have to do. We have to discuss something more. I'm just writing for you so that you can also write down. The sufficient condition. The sufficient condition for an extreme point. For an extreme point, you can say x1, x2, xn to be a local maximum, to be a local maximum of fx, or you can say f of x1, x2, xn, subject to the constants, gi x1, x2, xn equal to 0 for I equal to 1 to m is determined by the signs of the last n minus m principal minors of matrix HB, that is border Hessian matrix. So now I hope you can understand that why n should be greater than m, because otherwise n minus m, that value is going to be negative. Yeah. So that's why here we are going to assume always that, or we are going to consider the problem when n is greater than m. Okay. So what we are going to do, that n minus m principal minus, what will be the sign? The extreme points, gives the maximum value, of the objective function, if the maximum value of the objective function when the determinant of last n minus m principal minors, when the determinant of n minus m principal minors alternate in sign. When the determinant of last n minus m principal minors alternate in sign. Now, when it is alternate in sign, from which sign it is going to be start? It is a very important thing. The smallest of these, being negative. If m is even, where m denotes the number of constants, when m is even, and positive when m is odd. I will explain this thing in detail before going to solve the problem. But obviously, I hope you can understand that here the problem is basically talking about, or the sufficient condition is actually talking about maximum, local maximum. So obviously, you may ask about that, what is going to be happen for the minimum? As you are doing already, I hope in the LPP, that how to convert a maximization problem to a minimization problem, and also how we can convert a minimization problem to a maximization problem, right? So basically the thing is same. If you want to minimize a function fx, that will be same as maximize a function minus fx. Right or wrong? Clear? Okay to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So by this way, obviously we can always deal with, or we can always convert a minimization problem to a maximization problem, and we can apply the sufficient condition. So obviously here, what you have to do, first of all, you have to find out our bordered Hessian matrix. And then to find out the nature of the point, we are going to take the determinant of last n minus m principal minors. And if that principal minor signs are alternate in sign, then it is going to give you the maximum. But what type of sign you are going to get? If m is even, then the alternate sign for the smallest principal minor, it is going to be start with negative if m is even, and that alternate sign from the smallest, it will be start with plus if m is odd. Okay to all of you? Is it okay? Okay, I'll just give some examples so that you can understand. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, let us consider some cases so that you can understand that what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's take a problem where the number of variable is 3. x1, x2, x3. And suppose we are dealing with two constants. Okay. Now, obviously, after finding the partial derivative, we have find out the stationary point. We have done that. Now, when you are going to apply the sufficient condition, what you have to do? We have to find out n minus m principal minors, right? What is the value of n minus m? N minus m is? Bolo. N minus m is 1. So basically, we have to calculate one principal minor. We have to calculate one principal minor. Okay. Now, if I ask you, what is the order of the border Hessian matrix for this case? What is the order of the border Hessian matrix? Bolo. What is the order of the border Hessian matrix?
5.
Very good. 5 cross 5. Okay. Now, we have to find out last n minus m principal minor. So what will be the last principal minor for a matrix of 5 cross 5? For a matrix of 5 cross 5, what is the last principal minor, if I ask you? What will be the order of that? Bolo?
The whole matrix.
Exactly, the whole matrix. That is basically, for this case, we have to find out the determinant of HB actually. Okay. Now, if I ask you, what will be the sign of this? That sign will be depending on the nature of M. As this is the only one principal minor we need to calculate, so जो smallest है वही largest है. So that means यहाँ पर तो obviously you are not going to get the alternate sign, only one sign you are going to get, and that sign will be decided by the nature of M. What is the nature of M here? What is the nature of M? Even. So what should be the sign now?
Negative.
Very good. Similarly, let's take another case. Suppose I am considering n equal to 3 and m equal to 1. How many principal minor? Okay, first of all, what is the order of the border Hessian matrix? M plus n cross m plus n, right? So it will be 4 cross 4. You have to respond, not otherwise it will be difficult for me to understand that. Yes, 4 cross 4. So now how many principal minors we are going to calculate? Last n minus m, that is 2 principal minors. Okay, what are their orders? What are their orders? Tell me. We are going to take always from the last. So again, what is the last principal minor? Tell me. What is the order of the last principal minor?
4 cross
4
4.
cross 4. And we have to calculate 2. So what will be the immediate last of that?
3 cross 3.
Exactly. We have to find out the determinant of these two principal minor. Now tell me, what are the sign? We are going to always start with the smallest one. Now we have 2. For the smallest one, what will be the sign? What will be the sign? What is the nature of M?
Odd.
Positive. That means positive.
So positive.
And they are alternate in sign. So this one is positive. What will be the nature of this one then?
Negative.
Is it okay to all of you? Let's take another
sir.
one. Let's take another one. Let's consider n is equal to 3, sorry, n is equal to 4 and m is equal to 2. Okay. Now how many, what is the order of the Hessian matrix?
6 cross 6.
6. How many principal minor we need to calculate? 2.
2.
What are the orders?
6 cross 6, 5 cross 5.
Good. 6 cross 6, 5 cross 5. What are their sign?
5 cross 5 is negative, and 6 cross 6 is positive.
That's it. This is a sufficient condition actually. I hope you have understood each and everything here now. Shall we proceed to solve the problem?
Yes, sir.
This is your first problem. Solve the following problem by using the method of Lagrangian multipliers. We have to maximize a function, maximize z, 2x1 square minus 3x2 square plus 18x2, subject to the constants 2x1 plus x2 equal to 8, where xi is greater than equal to 0 for I equal to 1 and 2. You can see, although it is given the Lagrange multipliers, but you can see the equality constant involves here. So that means we have to use the Lagrange multipliers here. So the method what is going to be mentioned, you have to always follow that method. No other method you can use, remember that. So what we are going to do first of all, we are going to construct Lagrangian function, right? So Lagrangian function, what will be that? Lagrangian function. What will be the Lagrangian function? L. How many variables will be there? Anyone? X1?
2.
No. X1 and X2 will be
Three,
already
three,
there. 3.
three.
And
Because-
lambda.
And lambda, because one constant and two variables. X1, X2 is already there, and as one constant is here, so you have to introduce another lambda. And it's going to be 2x1 square plus 3x2 square plus 18x2 minus lambda 2x1 plus x2 minus 8. Now we are going to take the partial derivatives from the necessary condition. So partial derivative means we are going to take partial derivative with respect to x1. We are going to take the partial derivative with respect to x2. We are going to take the partial derivative with respect to lambda. That's we are going to find out. So if you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda, what you are going to get? 4x1, right? Minus 2 lambda. That is equal to 0. Is it? Second one, del L del x2 is what? Minus 2. Sorry, this is going to be 18x2, right? Sorry. Plus 18 minus lambda is going to be 0. And if you take the partial derivative with respect to lambda, then the constant itself will come 2x1 plus x2 minus 8. Now, how we'll proceed to find out the value of x1, x2 and lambda? Remember one thing always, because this partial derivative with respect to lambda always give you the constant. That means relation between x1 and x2. So what we'll do, first of all, we are going to find out x1 and x2 in terms of lambda from the first two equations. So what is the value of x1 in terms of lambda? Lambda by 2. And x2 is going to be 18, right? Minus 6x2. Okay, sorry, we are going to find out x2, right? 18 minus lambda divided by 6. Is it okay? Okay. Now, if you replace that x1 and x2 here, what is going to come? Minus can be cancelled out because this side is 0. So this is going to be 2x1. So it is lambda plus 18 minus lambda divided by 6. That is going to be equal to 8. So this is going to be 6 lambda plus 18 minus lambda, that is going to be 48. So 6 lambda minus lambda, that is 5 lambda, and that is going to be 30. So lambda is equal to 6. Okay to all of you? So now what is the value of x1 now? As lambda is 6, so x1 is 3. What is the value of x2? 2. So now what is the stationary point? Stationary point, exactly 3, 2, and we are not going to write down comma here because lambda is totally different component, so you can write down in that way, 3, 2, this is your x1, x2, colon 6. Okay, because lambda you are not going to put it here in the function. If I put it comma there, then you might think about that it is basically x1, x2, x3. So to distinguish between that x1, x2 and lambda, we are just putting the same. This is not the standard way you can follow. This is just my way. I'm writing in that way so that it will be easy for us to understand that what you are writing. So now, after getting the stationary point, what we are going to do, we are going to calculate the border Hessian matrix. Right? Clear? So now we are going to calculate HB. What will be the order of the border Hessian matrix? What is the order of the border Hessian matrix? How many variables?
5 cross 5.
5. Why 5?
No.
3 cross 3.
3
3
cross
cross
3. So what are the variables? Lambda, x1, x2. So here it is lambda, x1, x2. First, what is the value will come? Partial derivative with respect to lambda twice.
0.
That is 0. And you can see that it will come as 1 cross 1. There is only one value because only one constant is there. I hope you remember I have mentioned there m cross m. That block we are going to get of 0. Here you are getting 1 because it is 1 cross 1. Now partial derivative with respect to lambda and x1. To do that, again we will go back to the previous. So here do not remove that minus, otherwise this is going to be wrong, because when you have solved this, we have cancelled out that minus. But when you take the partial derivative or when you construct the Hessian matrix, you have to consider that. So if you take the partial derivative with respect to x1, what is going to come? When you take the partial derivative with respect to x1, what is going to come? Minus?
Minus 2.
Minus 2. And if you take the partial derivative with respect to x2, minus 1. So, yes, so that is means you are going to get here minus 2 minus 1. And as I mentioned to you that you are going to take the transpose of this. So basically it is going to come as minus 2 minus 1. It was 1 cross 2, we have taken as 2 cross 1. Now, in between, you are going to get the partial derivative with respect to x. Again, go back to that. Dekho. If you take the partial derivative with respect to x1 twice, what you are going to get? X1 twice. What you are going to get?
4.
4.
4. Okay. If you take the mixed derivative, x1, x2, what will come? Second order. Is there any term? x1 and x2? 0. Exactly. If you take the partial derivative with respect to x2 twice, what is come? Minus 6. So ultimately, what is going to come here? 4, 0. As this one is 0, so this one will be also 0. Minus. Always try to calculate the border Hessian matrix in that way. Then it will be easy for you to construct it. Okay. Now what you are going to do? We are going to calculate n minus m principal minors. What is the value of n? Here, what is m? N is 2. And what is m? M is 1. So what we need to calculate? We need to calculate last n minus m. That is one principal minor. Yes. Okay. So one principal minor means basically what you have to calculate? You have to calculate
Determinant of
whole matrix. That is HB. Very simple calculation we are going to get. 0 is there, so first you need not to calculate that part. Minus 2, so this is going to be 2. This is going to come as minus 2, that is 12. Minus 1 into 0, 0 minus 4, that is plus 4. That is going to come as 8. Oh, sorry, 20, sorry. I mean 12 minus 4, sorry, yes. 20, that is greater than 0. Okay, now what it should be by the sufficient condition? What is the nature of m? Odd. So it should be positive. So
Positive.
It is happening here. So you can see that as it is greater than 0, so that's why the extreme point, what you have got, 3, 2, that actually maximize the function fx. So since determinant of HB is greater than 0, therefore extreme point that is 3, 2, this is your point, maximize it. Okay, so in the next class we are going to further continue with the Lagrange multipliers method, and we are going to solve some more problem. Obviously, we are going to consider minimization problem, and also we are going to consider one problem where the maximization or minimization that is not going to define. What you have to do that is not defined. Just optimize. The problem is given as optimize. We are going to discuss this type of problem also. For the first internal, for the class test, I hope you have already get the notice that when this exam is going to be held. So the syllabus from my part is up to Lagrange's multipliers method. We are going to get another class before your another more than one class actually before your class test. So we're going to finish that, and that is your syllabus. If I continue further also, if I just go move for another topic also after that, I'll not going to consider for this class test. Up to this Lagrange's multipliers method, this is your syllabus. Okay to all of you from my part. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. হ্যাঁ এটা এটা হ্যাঁ এটা একটা এটা একটা এটা একটা একটা এক ধরনের ব্যাপার ধর এবারে সাপোজ চিন্তা কর ইফ ইউ থিঙ্ক অ্যাবাউট ইন দ্যাট ওয়ে দ্যাট ইফ m and n are same, and that means when the constant is minimum, then basically you are going to get some infinite number of solutions, right or wrong? When the constant is minimum, when you have only one constant 2x1 plus x2 equal to 8, how many solutions you are going to get? Bolo? You can put any value of x1 and x2 to get that. So that means basically you are going to get some infinite number of solutions here. Out of that, you have to search for that which one will give us the maximized value, right or wrong? But when you have another constant, suppose that I'm putting x1 plus x2 equal to 6. Suppose I'm giving another constant. Then after solving these two, if they are feasible, obviously, otherwise तो अगर ये दोनों different line होता तो obviously इसके लिए तो हम लोग solution ही निकाल नहीं पाते. But obviously if they solvable, then you are going to get x1 as some value and x2 as some value. Right or wrong? That means in that case, there is no need to consider the constant here. Just calculate the maximum and minimum the way what we have done without constant problem. The same way you have to do. Is it okay, Devdeep? What I'm trying to say? That means if you have the number of constants same as the number of variables, then in that case, you are going to consider the problem without the constant problem. Just solve the function. Just solve it as you have done it already. You need not to consider the constant in that case. Okay.